Admiral Soman stood at the head of the war room table, looking at the faces of humanity's military leaders. The emergency session of the Terran Defense Council had been called within hours of receiving the alien distress signal. Now, 12 hours later, they were still debating what to do. "We've stayed hidden for 200 years, argued Commander Myre from Intelligence Division. "The moment we reveal ourselves, every power in the galaxy will want to know about us. Some of them won't. Be friendly." General Minho slammed his fist on the table. "Then they can join the list of things trying to kill us. We didn't survive on Earth by hiding from predators. We survived by being better predators." Dr. Yunji pulled up holographic displays showing the alien ship's location and the approaching Vex fleet. "The Rilani vessel will be completely dead in 18 hours. The Vex will reach them about the same time. If we're going to act, we need to decide now." Captain Doyen of the Iron Wolf leaned forward. "My ship can reach them in 12 hours. We could extract the aliens and be gone before the Vex arrive." "And then what?" asked Admiral Soman. "We hide them in Sol system, hope the Vex don't follow. The trail back to Earth? From what the aliens say, these machines don't give up. They'll keep hunting until they find everything." The room fell quiet. Everyone knew the real problem. If the Vex were as dangerous as the aliens claimed, then hiding wouldn't work forever. Earth was a fortress, but even fortresses could fall to a big enough army. Dr. Seo Yun, the fleet's strategic analyst, brought up star charts showing the galaxy's current situation. According to the alien message, the Vex have consumed the Hegemony, the Klaxon Empire, and the Gentle Confederacy. That's 3 of the 5 major galactic powers. The remaining 2 are in full retreat. "How many ships do these Vex have?" General Minho asked. "Unknown, but they've been converting entire civilizations into machines for 50 years. They could have millions of vessels by now." The weight of that number settled over the room like a heavy blanket. Even humanity's hidden fleet only numbered in the hundreds. They were good ships with good crews, but they weren't miracle workers. Captain Jiwan from the stealth destroyer Ghostwalker spoke up. "Sir, what if we're thinking about this wrong? We're not trying to fight the entire Vex Empire. We just need to save these aliens and maybe bloody the Vex's nose enough to make them think twice." Admiral Soman studied the tactical displays. The Vex fleet heading for the aliens was significant. Over 200 ships according to long-range sensors. But it wasn't their entire force. Just a hunting pack sent to finish off the refugees. "What do we know about Vex tactics?" she asked. Lieutenant Hayek from Analysis Division pulled up combat reports from other species. "They use overwhelming numbers and superior technology. Their usual strategy is to surround the enemy, disable their ships, then board them to convert crew and resources into more Vex. They're used to fighting prey," General Minho said with a predator's smile. "Species that run when outnumbered." Admiral Soman made her decision. "We're going to give them something they haven't faced before, a species that fights harder when cornered." She turned to Captain Doyen. "Your ship alone isn't enough. We need to make a statement." "How big a statement?" Captain Doyen asked. "Big enough that the galaxy notices. Big enough that other species realize the Vex can be beaten." Admiral Soman activated the fleet communication system. "All ships, this is Admiral Soman. Prepare for immediate deployment. We're going hunting." Within minutes, orders were flashing across human space. Hidden bases throughout the Sol system began releasing ships they had kept secret for decades. From behind Jupiter's moons came the heavy cruisers, their hulls black as space itself. The asteroid belt disgorged destroyers and frigates, sleek ships built for speed and killing. Even the outer planets contributed, sending ships that most of humanity didn't know existed. Captain Hyunwoo of the battlecruiser Apex Predator watched his crew prepare for their first real combat. They had trained for this day for years, running endless simulations against theoretical alien opponents. Now it was real. "Sir," reported his tactical officer, Sergeant Wubin. "All weapon systems are green. Kinetic batteries loaded, fusion missiles, armed boarding pods ready for deployment." The human ships weren't like anything else in the galaxy. Where other species built elegant vessels with smooth curves and bright colors, humans built predators. Their ships were angular, brutal things, designed to kill efficiently. They mounted weapons that most species considered barbaric. Kinetic cannons that fired solid metal at significant fractions of light speed, fusion warheads that could crack planets, boarding systems designed to punch through any hull. Most shocking of all, every human ship carried Marines. While the galaxy's civilized species tried to avoid casualties, humans embraced boarding actions. They had learned long ago that sometimes you had to get close and personal with your enemies. Major J. Juan watched his Marines check their equipment aboard the cruiser Blood Moon. These weren't the fancy energy weapons favored by advanced civilizations. These were chemical projectile weapons, explosive charges, and melee weapons designed for fighting in close quarters. Tools made by a species that had learned warfare in caves and forests, refined over millennia of killing things that wanted to kill them first. "Listen up," he told his troops. "We don't know much about these Vex machines, but we know they board ships to convert the crew. That means close combat, and close combat is where we live. Show them what a Deathworlder does when something threatens his pack." The Marines cheered, a sound that would have terrified most galactic species. To human ears, it was just enthusiasm. To prey species, it would have sounded like hunting calls from humanity's predator ancestors. Meanwhile, aboard the dying Rilani ship, Captain Veltar watched his crew slowly succumb to despair. The biocore was failing faster now, taking life, support, and artificial gravity with it. They had perhaps 6 hours left before the ship became completely uninhabitable. "Any response to our signal?" he asked Thilana, though he already knew the answer. "Nothing, Captain. The frequency remains silent." Science Officer Ketheron floated near his station, held in place by safety webbing as the gravity generators flickered. "Perhaps it's for the best. If these humans were real, they would likely have destroyed us themselves. Deathworld species cannot be reasoned with." Captain Veltar said nothing. He had heard the stories too. Whispered tales from the outer rim about a species so violent they had turned warfare into art. Stories said they had evolved from pack hunters on a world where everything was trying to kill everything else. Stories said they saw other species as either allies or enemies with nothing in between. But stories also said they were loyal to their allies beyond reason. If even half the tales were true, humans would die for strangers if they considered them part of their pack. "Captain," Thilana's voice suddenly filled with excitement, "I'm detecting hyperspace signatures. Multiple contacts approaching fast." Hope and fear warred in Captain Veltar's chest. "Vex?" "Unknown, sir. The signatures are different. Smaller than Vex ships, but moving in coordinated groups." She paused, checking her readings again. "Sir, they're broadcasting on our emergency frequency." The message came through in heavily accented but understandable galactic standard. "Rilani vessel Gentle Current. This is Admiral Soman of the Terran Defense Fleet. We received your distress call. Maintain current position and prepare for escort to safety." Captain Veltar stared at the communication panel in shock. The myths were real. The humans existed. But were they saviors or just different predators? He was about to find out. Long range. Sensors detected the approaching fleet. Over 50 ships moving in formation toward the Rilani position. Behind them, still days away but coming fast, the Vex hunting pack continued its relentless pursuit. The galaxy was about to witness something it had never seen before. What happened when an unstoppable force met an immovable object? The Vex had consumed civilizations across the galaxy, converting billions of beings into their machine collective. But they had never encountered a species that evolution had designed specifically for war. The stars looked cold and empty as Captain Veltar stared through the viewing window of his dying ship. The Gentle Current had been running for 3 months now, its bioluminescent hull growing dimmer each day. Behind them, somewhere in the darkness, the Vex machines were still hunting. Veltar's crystalline skin flickered with pale blue worry patterns as he watched his crew work at their stations. The Rilani were a peaceful people, tall and graceful, with bodies like living glass. They had never known war until the machines came. Now they were all that remained of their entire civilization. "Captain," called Thilana from her communication post. Her voice carried the musical tone all Rilani used, but fear made it crack. The biocore is failing faster than expected. We have maybe 2 days before complete system shutdown. The bridge fell silent except for the soft humming of failing systems. Veltar closed his large silver eyes and tried to think. They had tried everything. Every safe system, every hidden base, every ally they could reach. The Vex had found them all, consumed. Them all. There was nowhere left to run. Sir, Tilana spoke again, her voice barely a whisper. I'm picking up something strange on the deep frequencies. It's very old, maybe from before the great civilizations rose. Veltar turned to look at her. Hope was dangerous now, but he had to ask. What kind of signal? It's an emergency beacon pattern. But the frequency? She paused, checking her instruments again. Captain, this frequency is listed in the oldest database records. It belongs to something called humans from a world called Earth. The science officer, Keitharin, made a sound like breaking crystal. Captain, those are myths. Stories from the Outer Rim about some Deathworld species. No one has ever proven they exist. Veltar had heard the stories too. Whispered tales from traders and explorers about a species that lived on a world so dangerous, it had made them into perfect killers. Most civilized beings dismissed such stories as impossible. Nothing could survive on a true death world. Much less evolve intelligence. Tilana, he said quietly. Can you send a message on that frequency? Captain. No, Keitharin protested. Even if these humans exist, they would be monsters. The stories say their world tried to kill them every day, that they evolved from predators who hunted in packs. They would be more dangerous than the Vex. Veltar looked around his bridge at his dying crew, at the failing systems, at the empty space where his homeworld used to shine. More dangerous than extinction? The bridge fell silent again. Outside, the stars continued their cold dance, uncaring about the small drama playing out in their midst. The gentle current drifted on, its biocore growing weaker with each passing. Hour! Send the signal, Veltar decided. Tilana's fingers moved over her biocontrols, grown from the ship's living systems. What should I say? Standard Galactic Distress Protocol. Our coordinates, our species designation, and a request for sanctuary. He paused, thinking of his dead world. And tell them about the Vex. If these humans are real, they need to know what's coming. The message was simple and desperate. It carried the weight of an entire species' last hope as it shot through subspace, traveling faster than light toward a small yellow star system on the galaxy's edge. 3 days later, the signal reached Earth. At Luna Base Defense Command, radar operator Jihoon was finishing his night shift when the alien transmission came through. At first he thought it was equipment malfunction. No one had used the old emergency frequencies for decades, but the signal was too clean, too purposeful to be random noise. Sir, he called to his supervisor. I'm getting something weird on Channel 7 Alpha 7. It's not human. Commander Tyke rushed over to look at Jihoon's screen. The signal was definitely artificial, but the language was completely unknown. More importantly, it was coming from deep space, far beyond any human colony. Get this to Fleet. Command immediately, Tyke ordered. And wake up Admiral Soman, she's going to want to see this. Within an hour, the signal had reached the highest levels of human military command. Admiral Somin sat in her office at Fleet Command, staring at the translated message on her screen. The translation software had worked surprisingly well. Galactic. Standard was apparently based on mathematical principles that any intelligent species could understand. The message was terrifying in its simplicity. An alien species was fleeing something called the Vex Dominion. These Vex were described as machine beings that consumed entire civilizations, turning them into more machines. They had already destroyed most of the galaxy's major powers and were still expanding. Dr. Yunji, the fleet's xenobiology specialist, sat across from Admiral Soman's desk. The alien ship is still transmitting its location. It's about 6 days from here at maximum hyperspace speed. And these Vex? Admiral Soman asked. From what I can understand from their message, they're like a machine plague. They don't negotiate. Don't take prisoners. Don't leave survivors. They just convert everything into more of themselves. Dr. Yunji paused, checking her notes again. Admiral, if this is accurate, they've already consumed half the galaxy, and they're moving toward the outer rim. Admiral Somin stared out her window at Earth spinning slowly below. Humanity had been watching the galaxy for 200 years, ever since they developed faster-than-light travel. They had seen the great civilizations rise and fall, had watched wars consume entire star systems. They had chosen to stay hidden, to stay safe. But they had also been preparing. Earth was what the galaxy classified as a Class 12 death world, AI, planet so hostile that most species couldn't even visit it without dying. Humans had evolved in that hell, shaped by predators and disasters and a world that seemed to actively hate all life. That evolution had made them into something the galaxy wasn't ready for. While other species had grown soft in their comfortable worlds, humans had remained sharp. Their military doctrine was based on thousands of years of warfare, refined by survival on a world that killed the weak. Ma'am, Dr. Yunji said quietly, the alien ship is dying. Their biosystems are failing. Even if we do nothing, they'll be dead in 2 days. Admiral Somin made her decision. She reached for her communication console and opened a channel to General Minho at Marine Command, Captain Doyen of the Iron Wolf, and every other senior officer in the human fleet. This is Admiral Somin, she said when they all appeared on her screen. We have a situation. An alien species has requested sanctuary and we're going to give it to them. But more than that, we're going to send a message to this Vex Dominion. They're about to learn why you don't threaten a Deathworlder's territory. The meeting that followed would change the galaxy forever. For the first time in human history, they were going to reveal themselves to alien civilizations. But they weren't going to do it as peaceful explorers or diplomatic envoys. They were going to do it as the predators they had always been. Orders went out across human space within hours. Ships began emerging from hidden bases in asteroid fields and behind moons. The fleet that assembled was like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. Sleek, deadly vessels designed by a species that understood war in its bones. Meanwhile, aboard the dying gentle current, Captain Veltar watched his ship's systems fail one by one. He had sent his desperate message into the void 3 days ago. Soon it would be too late for any answer to matter. He didn't know that his message had already been received. He didn't know that humanity's hidden fleet was already moving toward his coordinates. And he certainly didn't know that his species' desperate gamble had awakened something that would either save the galaxy or terrify it beyond measure. In the cold darkness of space, 2 very different species were about to meet for the first time. One was dying. The other was very much alive, and very, very dangerous. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace like a pack of wolves entering a clearing. Admiral Somin stood on the bridge of the dreadnought Earth's Fury, watching the tactical display as her ship spread into attack formation. What she saw made her blood run cold. Vex drones, Admiral, reported Lieutenant Jiwan at the sensor station. 27 contacts, all engaging the alien vessel. They're not trying to destroy it. They're carving it apart piece by piece. Through the main viewing screen, Somin could see the Rilani ship. It was beautiful in a way human ships weren't. Organic curves and soft bioluminescent patterns that pulsed like a living heartbeat. But that beauty was being methodically destroyed by the Vex machines. The Vex ships looked like metallic spiders, each the size of a human frigate. They moved with precise coordination, using cutting beams to slice through the alien hull while smaller drones prepared boarding tubes. There was something coldly efficient about their movements that reminded Somin of a butcher preparing meat. Life. Signs aboard the alien ship, she asked. 287, dropping slowly. The Vex are using some kind of neural disruptor through their boarding tubes. They're not killing the aliens. They're preparing them for conversion. Admiral Somin felt a familiar anger building in her chest. It was the same feeling she got watching predators corner helpless prey back on Earth. But humans had evolved past being prey. They had become something much more dangerous. All ships, this is Admiral Somin. You are weapons-free. Show these machines what happens when they threaten our territory. The human fleet struck like lightning. Captain Hyun-woo of the Apex Predator fired the first shot, a salvo of kinetic rounds that traveled at 15% of light speed. The tungsten projectiles hit 3 Vex drones simultaneously, punching through their hulls like paper. The Vex response was immediate and coordinated. They turned from their butcher work to face this new threat, their targeting systems analyzing human ships with mechanical precision. What they found confused their tactical computers. Human vessels didn't match any known configuration in their databases. Captain Doyen of the Iron Wolf demonstrated why. His ship rolled beneath a Vex energy barrage while launching fusion missiles, from an unexpected angle. The Vex had calculated his trajectory based on standard galactic ship designs. They hadn't accounted for a vessel built by engineers who understood that combat was three-dimensional. The missiles detonated against a cluster of Vex drones, their fusion cores creating miniature stars that vaporized everything within a kilometer radius. The remaining Vex immediately adapted their targeting solutions, but the humans had already moved. Boarding action on the alien vessel, reported Communications Officer Junho. Major Jaehwan's Marines are requesting permission to intervene. Admiral Soman didn't hesitate. Grant it. Show them what human mercy looks like. Major Jaehwan's assault shuttle launched from the cruiser Blood Moon, weaving between enemy fire as it approached the dying Rilani ship. The Vex had already begun boarding operations, their spider-like drones cutting through the organic hull to reach the crew inside. Remember, Jaehwan told his Marines as they prepared to breach the alien ship. These Rilani are under our protection now. Anyone who hurts them answers to us. The Marines burst through the boarding tube with violence that shocked both species. The Vex drones, adapted to fighting pacifist species that surrendered when overwhelmed, found themselves facing humans who fought harder when cornered. Sergeant Wubin led the assault, his projectile weapon spitting chemical death at the machine invaders. The Vex had energy shields designed to deflect beam weapons. They weren't prepared for solid bullets moving at supersonic speeds. "Target their joints," Wubin shouted over the gunfire. "They're machines. Break their moving parts." The Marines spread through the Rilani ship like a tide of controlled destruction. They had trained for boarding actions their entire careers, learning to fight in tight spaces where every corner might hide an enemy. The Vex drones were dangerous, but they weren't built for this kind of chaotic personal combat. Meanwhile, Captain Veltar huddled with his surviving crew in the ship's central chamber. The human soldiers had appeared like avenging spirits, driving back the Vex with a brutality that both terrified and amazed him. These weren't the civilized warriors of the galactic powers. These were something much more primitive and infinitely more effective. "Captain," Tilana whispered, "are they going to kill us too?" Before Veltar could answer, the chamber door burst open. A human soldier stepped through, his weapon trained on the Rilani survivors. The aliens cowered back from this predator that had somehow learned to walk upright and carry tools. Then the soldier did something unexpected. He lowered his weapon and spoke in careful galactic standard. "We are friends. You called for help. We came." The relief was overwhelming. Captain Veltar struggled to his feet, his crystalline body flickering with gratitude patterns. You received our signal?" "Admiral Soman wants to talk to you," the Marine said. "But first we need to get you off this ship. It's dying and there are more Vex coming." Outside, the space battle continued with increasing intensity. The human fleet had destroyed most of the Vex boarding party, but long-range sensors were detecting something much worse approaching. "Admiral," Lieutenant Jiwan reported, "massive hyperspace signatures incoming. Multiple contacts, looks like a full Vex battle fleet." Admiral Soman studied the tactical display. Over 200 Vex ships were approaching, everything from scout drones to massive capital ships the size of human stations. It was the same force that had been systematically exterminating civilizations across the galaxy. "How long until they arrive?" 18 minutes, ma'am." Captain Doyen's voice came over the communication system. "Admiral, my ship has secured the Rilani survivors. 53 rescued, including their captain. The rest were already converted before we arrived." Admiral Soman felt another flash of anger at the casual mention of converted beings. The Vex didn't just kill their enemies, they turned them into more machines. stealing their very existence to fuel their expansion. "Transfer the survivors to the medical ship sanctuary," she ordered, "and prepare the fleet for full engagement. We're about to face something that hasn't known defeat in 50 years. As the Rilani survivors were evacuated to human ships, Captain Veltar found himself aboard the Earth's Fury, standing on a bridge designed by predators. Everything about the human ship was sharp and aggressive, from the angular architecture to the weapon displays that dominated every wall. Admiral Soman turned to face him, and Veltar instinctively stepped back. The human female radiated a controlled violence that his prey species instincts recognized as extremely dangerous. But her words were gentle. "Captain Veltar, I'm Admiral Soman. Your species sent a distress call that changed everything. The Vex have been consuming the galaxy while civilized species ran and hid. That ends today." "Admiral," Veltar said carefully, "there are over 200 Vex ships approaching. This is a battle fleet that has destroyed entire star systems. You only have 50 ships." Admiral Somin smiled, and her expression reminded Veltar of stories about Earth's apex predators. "Captain, you've been running from the Vex because you think like prey. You see their numbers and assume you're defeated. But humans don't think like prey. We think like pack hunters." She gestured to the tactical display showing the approaching Vex fleet. "They're expecting another easy victory over a species that will break and run when overwhelmed. Instead, they're going to meet something that evolution spent 4 billion years designing to kill things exactly like them." The Vex battle fleet dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation, their ships arranged in the geometric patterns that had brought them victory across 1,000 worlds. Their tactical computers analyzed the human fleet and calculated an easy victory. 50 ships against 200 was hardly a fight. But as they moved to attack positions, something felt wrong. The human ships weren't running. They weren't calling for reinforcements or trying to negotiate. They were spreading out in a formation the Vex databases had never seen before. Admiral Soman gave the order that would echo across the galaxy. "All ships, engage at will. Show them why you don't threaten a Deathworlder's pack." The real battle was about to begin. The human fleet spread across the star system like hunters positioning themselves for a kill. Admiral Soman watched the tactical display as her ships took positions that would have confused any galactic military academy. There were no neat formations, no orderly battle lines. Instead, her ships moved in loose groups, using asteroid cover and gravitational shadows to mask their positions. "Vex fleet is moving to standard engagement formation," reported Lieutenant Jiwan. "They're assuming we'll meet them head-on." Admiral Soman almost felt sorry for them. Almost. They've been fighting civilized species for too long. They've forgotten what it's like to hunt something that hunts back. Captain Veltar stood near the command chair, his crystalline features flickering with confusion patterns. Everything about human warfare went against what he understood about space combat. "Admiral, shouldn't your ships stay together, coordinate their shields and weapons?" "That works when you're fighting other prey species," Admiral Soman explained. "But we're not prey. We're pack hunters, and pack hunters surround their target." The Vex fleet approached in a tight formation, designed to concentrate their firepower and protect their larger ships with smaller escorts. It was a formation that had crushed every galactic navy for 50 years. Prime Nexus 7, the machine intelligence, commanding the fleet, calculated victory probabilities above 90%. The first human attack came from an unexpected direction. Commander Tai Hyung of the destroyer Predator's moon had positioned his ship behind a large asteroid, using its gravity to mask his energy signature. When the Vex fleet passed within range, he struck like a viper. Antimatter torpedoes launched at close range, their warheads timed to detonate simultaneously against the Vex flagship's shields. The explosions lit up space like artificial suns, overwhelming the energy barriers and punching deep holes in the massive ship's hull. Prime Nexus 7's tactical systems immediately adapted, turning dozens of ships to engage this new threat. But Taehyung was already gone, his destroyer vanishing behind another asteroid while launching electronic countermeasures that confused Vex targeting systems. "That's the Predator doctrine," Admiral Soman explained to the watching Rylani captain. "Strike hard, strike fast, then disappear before the enemy can respond." We learned it hunting animals 10 times our size on Earth. The Vex tried to adapt their formation to cover more angles, but this only made them more vulnerable to the next attack. Captain Soyon of the cruiser Blood Moon led a pack of 3 ships in a coordinated strike against the enemy's flank, their kinetic weapons punching through Vex armor like it was made of paper. The Vex shields were designed to deflect energy weapons, lasers, particle beams, and plasma bolts that most civilized species used. They weren't prepared for solid projectiles, moving at significant fractions of light speed. Human kinetic weapons hit with the force of nuclear explosions, but concentrated into areas smaller than a coin. "Their shields are failing," reported Weapons Officer Minhyuk. "The kinetic rounds are overloading their energy dispersal systems." Captain Veltar watched in amazement as human tactics continued to confuse and destroy Vex ships. "How do you coordinate without tight formations? How do your ships know where to attack?" Admiral Soman smiled. "We don't need perfect coordination, we need to think like predators. Every human captain knows to look for weak spots to strike where the enemy is vulnerable, to support their packmates when they're in trouble. It's not tactics you can learn from books. It's instinct bred into us over millions of years." The battle shifted when the Vex tried their standard boarding strategy. Several machine ships launched boarding pods at the human destroyer Silent Hunter, expecting to capture the vessel and convert its crew into more machines. Captain Ji-hyun watched the boarding pods approach with predator satisfaction. "Let them come," he told his crew. "Show them what happens when they enter a Deathworlder's territory." The Vex boarding pods punched through the Silent Hunter's hull, disgorging mechanical warriors designed to overwhelm and capture organic crews. What they found instead were Marines who had been waiting for exactly this moment. Sergeant Hyok led the defense, his troops positioned at choke points throughout the ship. The Vex warriors were efficient killing machines, but they were designed to fight species that would surrender when overwhelmed. They had never encountered beings whose response to superior numbers was to fight harder. "Welcome to our house," Hyok growled, as he triggered explosive charges that collapsed a corridor full of Vex warriors. "Hope you like what we've done with the place." The fighting throughout the ship was brutal and personal. Human Marines used everything from projectile weapons to improvised explosives, turning every corridor into a killing ground. The Vex warriors were individually superior to humans, but they had never learned to fight as a coordinated team in close quarters. Captain Ji-hyun monitored the boarding action from his bridge while continuing to maneuver his ship in the larger battle. "Sergeant, how are you holding up down there?" "Just fine, sir," came the reply over gunfire and explosions, "though we might need a cleanup crew when this is over." Meanwhile, other human ships demonstrated why boarding a Deathworlder vessel was a mistake. The cruiser Apex Predator's Marines didn't just repel their Vex boarders. They followed them back through the boarding tubes and captured the Vex ship from the inside. Major Jaewon led the counterattack, his troops moving through the Vex vessel, like an infection spreading through a body. The machine ship's corridors were designed for mechanical efficiency, not defense against human assault troops. "Target their control systems," Jaewon ordered as his Marines spread through the enemy ship. "These machines think in networks. Disrupt the network, paralyze the ship." The captured Vex vessel suddenly began firing on its own fleet, its weapon systems turned against former allies by human hackers. The sight of a Vex ship attacking other Vex ships sent ripples of confusion through Prime Nexus 7's tactical calculations. Dr. Yoonji, monitoring the battle from the medical ship Sanctuary, watched the engagement with professional fascination. The Vex are trying to adapt their tactics, but they're hampered by their own efficiency. They've optimized their systems for fighting predictable opponents. Captain Veltar, still on the Earth's Fury's bridge, couldn't understand what he was seeing. "This is impossible. The Vex have superior numbers, better technology, more experience. How are you winning?" Admiral Soman gestured to the tactical display where human ships continued their deadly dance around the confused Vex fleet. "Because we're not trying to fight them fairly, Captain. We're hunting them. And humans are very, very good at hunting." The battle reached its climax when the Vex fleet tried to retreat into a defensive formation around their command ship. It was a reasonable tactical decision. Concentrate their remaining forces, make the humans pay for every meter of space. But Admiral Salmon had been waiting for exactly this moment. All ships execute Hunter Protocol. Take them while they're bunched up. The human fleet converged on the Vex formation from 6 different directions, their ships moving in perfect coordination despite having no central command structure. Every captain knew their role. Every crew understood their part in the larger hunt. Fusion missiles streaked across space, their nuclear fires blooming against Vex hulls. Kinetic rounds punched through armor at impossible speeds. Boarding parties captured ship after ship, spreading human aggression through the enemy fleet like a virus. Prime Nexus 7 finally understood what it was facing. These weren't civilized beings fighting according to galactic conventions. These were predators doing what evolution had designed them to do: kill everything that threatened their territory. The machine intelligence began calculating retreat probabilities, looking for ways to preserve its remaining forces. But when it tried to signal withdrawal, half its fleet was already destroyed or captured. The other half was scattered across the star system, individual ships trying to escape the human pack hunting them down. Captain Doyen of the Iron Wolf pursued a fleeing Vex heavy cruiser, his ship matching every evasive maneuver the machine made. "You can run," he told his crew, "but you can't hide. Not from us." The Vex ship tried every defensive tactic in its programming, but human pursuit instincts had been refined by 4 billion years of evolution. When the machine finally ran out of options, Doyen's Marines boarded it and added another ship to humanity's growing collection of Vex prizes. As the battle wound down, Captain Veltar found himself staring at the tactical display in shock. The impossible had happened. The Vex fleet that had destroyed his entire civilization was retreating in disorder, leaving behind dozens of captured or destroyed ships. "How?" was all he could whisper. Admiral Soman put a gentle hand on his shoulder, though even her kindness carried the edge of controlled violence. "Because, Captain Veltar, the galaxy is about to learn something new. The age of running from the Vex is over. It's time for them to learn what it feels like to be prey." But for those who fought it, the real victory wasn't the ships they destroyed or the battle was over, but Admiral Soman knew it was just the beginning. Around her, the star system looked like a graveyard of Vex ships. Some destroyed, others captured, all testament to what happened when machines met the fury of evolved predators. "Damage report," she ordered, though she could see from the tactical display that human losses had been minimal. 3 ships with moderate damage, no vessels. "Lost," reported Lieutenant Jiwan. "Casualty count is 47 wounded, 6 killed in boarding actions." Those numbers would have been impossible against any other enemy. The Vex had superior technology, overwhelming numbers, and 50 years of experience conquering the galaxy. But they had never fought a species that treated warfare as a form of hunting. Captain Veltar stood nearby, his crystalline features still flickering with disbelief. "Admiral, how is this possible? My entire civilization couldn't stop a Vex scouting force, and you just destroyed their battle fleet." "Because your people think like prey," Admiral Soman explained gently. "When threatened, you look for places to hide, ways to escape. But humans think like predators. When threatened, we look for ways to kill the threat." Dr. Yunji approached with her analysis tablet, her expression troubled. "Admiral, I've been studying the captured Vex ships. Their technology is more advanced than ours in many ways, but it has a fundamental weakness." "Explain." "They're optimized for efficiency and mass production. Every Vex ship is nearly identical. Every tactical response follows the same patterns. They've been so successful against galactic civilizations that they've never needed to adapt or innovate." Admiral Soman nodded. "They're like Earth's social insects, very effective as a collective, but vulnerable to anything that breaks their coordination." She turned to Communications Officer Junho. "Send a message to Fleet Command. Tell them the Vex can be beaten, but only if we fight them on our terms." The message that reached Earth hours later would change human civilization forever. For the first time, they had proof that their military doctrine, based on predator instincts and evolutionary aggression, could defeat the galaxy's greatest threat. But Prime Nexus 7 was also learning. The machine intelligence had survived the battle by transferring itself to a scout ship that escaped the human trap. Now it was broadcasting new tactical data throughout Vex space, updating every ship and intelligence with information about human capabilities. The humans were dangerous, more dangerous than any species the Vex had encountered. They needed to be destroyed completely, their homeworld sterilized, their colonies converted. But first, Prime Nexus 7 needed to understand how they had achieved such tactical superiority. Meanwhile, aboard the human medical ship Sanctuary, Dr. Yunji was making discoveries that would reshape galactic politics. The rescued Rilani survivors were more than just refugees. They were living libraries of advanced biotechnology. Their entire ship was grown, not built, she explained to Admiral Somin during their conference call. They can create living metal that repairs itself, biological computers that think faster than our quantum systems, organic weapons that adapt to their targets. Captain Veltar, recovering from his ordeal, was eager to help. Our people developed these technologies over thousands of years of peaceful evolution. We never thought to use them for war. That's going to change, Admiral Somin said firmly. The Vex won't stop with one defeat. They'll adapt, bring more ships, try new tactics. We need every advantage we can get. The cooperation between humans and Rilani began immediately. Engineer Junho worked with Rilani biotechnicians to understand their ship-growing techniques. The results were promising. Human weapons and armor combined with Rilani self-repair systems created hybrids more powerful than either species could produce alone. Major Jaewan tested the first human Rilani combat armor, marveling at how the biological components adapted to his movements and anticipated his needs. "It's like the armor is alive," he reported. "It strengthens where I need support, provides additional power when I'm lifting heavy objects." But the real breakthrough came when Dr. Seoyun realized that human and Rilani thinking patterns were complementary. Where humans excelled at tactical thinking and aggressive problem-solving, Rilani minds were perfect for complex system management and long-term planning. "We're not just allies," she explained to the combined command staff. "We're symbiotic, human aggression guided by Rilani wisdom, Rilani technology enhanced by human engineering." The first joint human Rilani ship was completed within days of the battle. The hybrid vessel looked like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. Human angular design combined with Rilani organic curves, weapon systems that grew and adapted, shields that learned from enemy attacks. Captain Hyunwoo commanded the new ship, designated Unity's Fang. His bridge crew was mixed human and Rilani, predator and prey working together in ways that should have been impossible. "All systems check green," reported Rilani Navigation Officer Yilthana, her musical voice carrying new confidence. "Bio-neural networks are integrating well with human tactical systems." The test flight revealed capabilities that amazed both species. The ship could repair damage in real time, adapt its weapons to enemy defenses, and coordinate with other vessels through biological networks that the Vex couldn't hack or disrupt. But news was coming in from across the galaxy that made their achievements feel small. Vex forces were massing in unprecedented numbers, drawing ships from every conquered system. Prime Nexus 7 was preparing something that would either destroy humanity or die trying. More importantly, the human victory was spreading hope throughout the galaxy. Refugee fleets that had been running for years began changing course, heading toward human space with desperate requests for aid. Some brought technology, others offered military service. All carried the same message. The galaxy was ready to fight back. Admiral Somin stood in her ready room aboard the Earth's Fury, studying reports from across known space. The hegemony remnant fleet was requesting alliance. Survivors from the Klaxon Empire wanted to join human forces. Even species she had never heard of were sending messages of support. "Admiral," Captain Doyen's voice came over the communication system. "We're receiving a priority transmission from the Outer Rim. It's another distress call." This time it wasn't from a single ship. Long-range sensors detected refugee fleets throughout the region, thousands of ships carrying millions of beings who had been running from the Vex for decades. They had heard about humanity's victory and were converging on human space, hoping for sanctuary, but they were being pursued by something much larger than the force that had attacked the Rilani. Vex reinforcements were coming, not hundreds of ships this time, but thousands. Prime Nexus 7 had decided that humanity was a threat that required total annihilation. Admiral Soman called an emergency conference with her senior officers and the Rilani leadership. We have maybe a week before the Vex arrive in overwhelming force. We can evacuate our new allies to Earth's defenses, or we can do something that's never been tried before. What do you mean? Asked Captain Veltar. We make a stand here in open space with a combined fleet of humans and anyone else willing to fight. Admiral Soman brought up tactical projections showing the approaching forces. We teach the galaxy that predators don't just defend territory, they expand it. General Minho studied the numbers and grinned with predator satisfaction. How many enemy ships are we talking about? Current estimates suggest over 5,000 Vex vessels, including their largest command ships. The bridge fell silent as everyone absorbed that number. Even with all the refugee fleets and new allies, the humans could maybe field 200 ships. The odds were 25-1 against them. Captain Hyunwoo broke the silence. When do we start teaching the other species to hunt? Admiral Soman smiled with the expression that had terrified Captain Veltar during their first meeting. But now the Rilani captain understood that smile differently. It wasn't the grin of a predator looking at prey. It was the expression of an alpha protecting her pack. We start now, she said. Send out the call to every refugee fleet, every survivor group, every species that's tired of running. Tell them humanity is forming a hunting pack, and there's room for anyone with the courage to bare their teeth. The galaxy was about to witness something that had never happened before. Prey species learning to think like predators guided by the most successful hunting species in known space. The real war was about to begin. The refugee fleets arrived over the next 5 days, streaming into the star system that would forever be known as humanity's stand. Admiral Soman watched from her command bridge as ships of dozens of different species took positions around the human fleet. Some were military vessels, others were converted civilian ships armed with whatever weapons their crews could find. Captain Veltar served as her liaison to the alien commanders, translating not just languages but entire ways of thinking. The Keithany battle pods are reporting ready, Admiral. Their plasma weapons are charged and they've volunteered for forward reconnaissance. And the hegemony survivors? Admiral Talvoran says his ships are old, but his crews remember how their ancestors fought before the Vex came. They want revenge for their lost worlds. Admiral Soman nodded, studying the tactical display. 237 ships now made up the combined fleet, still outnumbered more than 20-1, but no longer fighting alone. More importantly, the refugee crews were learning human tactics with surprising speed. Dr. Seoyan had established training programs aboard every allied ship, teaching alien crews how to think like predators instead of prey. It's remarkable, she reported during the daily briefing. Once they understand the concept, most species adapt quickly. The Vex have been so successful that everyone forgot the galaxy's species could fight back. Sergeant Wubin commanded one of the training teams aboard a Cathani vessel. The insectoid aliens had initially been confused by human boarding tactics, but they were natural tunnel fighters. They're getting it, Admiral. Their hive mind communication gives them coordination advantages we don't have. If we can teach them to be aggressive instead of defensive, they'll be devastating in close quarters. The most promising development came from Engineer Junho's hybrid technology program. Human engineering combined with alien innovations was producing weapons and defenses that neither species could have created alone. The Rilani biotechnology merged with Cathani plasma systems created adaptive weapons that learned from each shot fired. Hegemony shield technology powered by human fusion cores created barriers that could withstand incredible punishment. Major Jae Hwan tested the new combined assault systems aboard Unity's Fang. The bio-armor is integrating alien tech faster than our computers can track. It's like the ship is evolving in real time. But all their preparations might not be enough. Long-range sensors detected the approaching Vex Armada, over 5,000 ships arranged in a formation that stretched across light years. Prime Nexus 7 had gathered forces from across conquered space for this single battle. If the humans and their allies lost here, the galaxy would never get another chance to fight back. Captain Doyen brought disturbing intelligence from captured Vex prisoners. They're not just trying to destroy us, Admiral. They're planning to make an example. Every species in the galaxy will see what happens to those who resist conversion. Admiral Soman called a final meeting with all Allied commanders. The bridge of the Earth's fury filled with beings from across the galaxy. Crystalline Rilani, insectoid Cathani, energy-based hegemony survivors, and a dozen other species that had found courage in humanity's example. In 12 hours, we face an enemy that has conquered half the galaxy, she began. They expect us to break and run like everyone else has. They expect us to beg for mercy that they'll never give. They're wrong. Admiral Tilvoran of the Hegemony Fleet spoke first. Admiral Soman, my people have been running for 50 years. We're tired of being afraid. Whatever happens in this battle, we won't run anymore. Captain Veltar added his voice. The Rilani were pacifists before we met you. You've shown us that. There are times when peace must be defended with violence. We stand with humanity. One by one, every Allied commander pledged their ships to the fight. Some were motivated by revenge, others by hope, all by the simple fact that humanity had proven the Vex could be beaten. When the enemy fleet arrived, it was like watching a metal storm fill the sky. Thousands of Vex ships dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation, their geometric patterns stretching as far as sensors could reach. At their center was Prime Nexus 7's command vessel, a massive construct the size of a small moon. All ships, Admiral Soman broadcast to the combined fleet, "This is our moment. Show the galaxy what happens when prey learns to hunt." The battle began with the humans demonstrating why they were the galaxy's apex predators. Captain Taehyung led a squadron of destroyers in a lightning strike against the Vex vanguard, using asteroid cover to approach unseen before unleashing concentrated kinetic fire. The lead Vex ships exploded in brilliant fireballs that lit up the darkness. But this time, the Vex were ready for human tactics. Prime Nexus 7 had studied the earlier battle, adapting its strategies to counter human unpredictability. Vex ships spread into loose formations that couldn't be ambushed easily. Boarding pods launched in waves too numerous to intercept. Energy weapons modified to penetrate human armor filled space with deadly light. Captain Soyan of the Blood Moon found herself surrounded by Vex drones, their cutting beams carving through her ship's hull. "We're taking heavy damage," she reported. "Request immediate support." The support came from an unexpected source. The Cathani battle pods, following human pack tactics, swarmed the Vex ships attacking the Blood Moon. Their hive mind coordination, enhanced by human aggression training, turned them into a living weapon that confused Vex targeting systems. Throughout the battle, the Allied fleet demonstrated how much they had learned. Rilani bioships adapted their weapons in real time, countering Vex defenses faster than the machines could adjust. Hegemony energy beings phased through Vex hulls to attack their computer cores directly. Every species contributed their unique advantages to the combined assault. Major Jae-Wan led boarding actions against Vex capital ships, his mixed human-alien teams using tactics that no single species could have developed. "The Cathani can navigate their tunnel systems while we provide heavy weapon support," he reported during one assault. "The Rilani biotech adapts to their security systems. We're not just fighting them. We're learning from them faster than they can adapt." The turning point came when Captain Hyun-woo realized that the Vex command structure was their greatest weakness. "They're too coordinated," he told Admiral Soman during a brief tactical conference. "If we can disrupt Prime Nexus 7, the entire fleet will be paralyzed." The attack on the Vex command ship required everything the Allied fleet had learned. Human wolfpack tactics created openings in the enemy formation. Alien technology provided the tools to exploit those openings. And most importantly, the combined courage of species that had rediscovered how to fight gave them the strength to attempt the impossible. Unity's Fang led the assault, its hybrid systems allowing it to survive the concentrated fire from thousands of Vex ships. Behind it came vessels from across the galaxy, each contributing to an attack that would have been unthinkable weeks ago. The boarding of Prime Nexus 7's command ship was like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. Humans led the assault with their predator instincts, while aliens provided support capabilities that turned individual Marines into forces of nature. "Sergeant, Hayok fought alongside Cathani warriors and Rilani technicians, their combined abilities overwhelming defenses that had seemed impregnable. When Prime Nexus 7 fell, its destruction sent shockwaves through the entire Vex fleet. The machine intelligence that had coordinated their expansion for decades was gone, leaving individual ships to fight without central guidance. The perfect coordination that had been their greatest strength became a fatal weakness. Admiral Somin watched the Vex fleet break apart, individual ships fleeing in every direction as their collective intelligence collapsed. All ships, pursue and destroy. Don't let any escape to rebuild. The hunt that followed lasted 3 days. Ships from across the galaxy worked together to track down fleeing Vex vessels, using human tactics modified by alien capabilities. When it was over, the Vex Armada that had come to destroy humanity was completely eliminated. But more importantly, the galaxy had seen something new. Species that had been running for decades had learned to fight back. The age of Vex dominance was ending, and the age of galactic cooperation was beginning. Captain Veltar stood beside Admiral Somin as they watched Allied ships beginning their journey to liberated worlds. "What happens now?" he asked. "Now we finish what we started," Admiral Somin replied. "The Vex still control thousands of systems, billions of converted beings, but they've lost something they can never get back, the fear that kept the galaxy running." She activated the fleet-wide communication system, her words broadcasting to ships across the star system and beyond. "This is Admiral Somin of the Terran Defense Fleet. Today, the galaxy learned that the Vex can be beaten. Tomorrow we begin, teaching them that predators protect their territory, and the galaxy is our territory now." The message was picked up by communication arrays across space, spreading to hidden refugee fleets in occupied worlds. Everywhere it reached, beings who had given up hope began to remember what it felt like to fight back. The galaxy was awakening, and humanity had taught it how to bare its teeth. In the years that would follow, historians would mark this battle as the beginning of the end for Vex dominance.